Good Friday to all of you who have tuned in to today's episode of Real Living in Bridgeport. And for those of you who are watching this, listening to this for the very first time, just as a reminder, this is Real Living in Bridgeport, talking about things that matter regarding real estate, regarding local real living in the neighborhood of Bridgeport in the Chicago metropolitan area. So it is not Bridgeport, Connecticut, or the small town, so I now learn, a small town in Bridgeport, Illinois. So for today's episode, we're going to dive into the conversation once my co-host is ready to pop through the door, once I make sure he's ready to go, of course. And we're going to do what we always do. We're going to lead the conversation off with sharing with all of you what's going on as far as the local market, the local dynamics of real estate in the neighborhood of Bridgeport. So with all of that said, let me check in on my co-host. Make sure he's ready to roll. So let me tap on his co-host room. By the way, he's got a special room now because Warren, my co-host, has been doing this long enough with me. We've given him a special room to prepare himself. So let's go. Let's see if he's ready. Warren, are you ready? All right, I think he's ready, guys. All right, there he is.
Hi, happy Friday, everyone.
Happy Friday to you, Warren. How you doing today?
Good. How about yourself?
Doing well. First Friday in May, right?
Yes.
First Friday in May. So before we get into the usual rhythm of our conversation, do you have any special plans for this, I think, Sunday, right? Cinco de Mayo. Any special plans?
Hanging out with the kids.
Hanging out with the kids. Are you going to get some tacos, perhaps?
Maybe. Hard to say.
All right. That may be what I will be doing. We may hit a local spot called Taqueria Invicto for some tacos. So we'll see, right? But all of that being said, great to see you today. Let's start the conversation today with a very usual, obvious topic, and that is from your perspective, and I'll add mine after yours, Warren, your perspective of what are the current trends, and can you drop a market update as to what's going on with real estate in the neighborhood of Bridgeport?
So pretty much the same. Still very low on inventory. Rates are still going up. I mean, they're staying high. They're not coming down like fast enough. Yeah. But there's still a lot of active buyers, people looking to buy. You still see like properties going under contract pretty fast, like the decent ones. Multiple offer situation, even though rates are high. And then people are just competing for what's out there.
Yeah, I know. It's the market has kind of defied gravity. Do you agree?
Yes, it's not your normal market. It's like a seller's market, but it's not fully a seller's market because there are still properties that sit in the market for a very long time because they're overpriced. But in general, there's still not a lot of supply and a lot of, but there's a really high demand.
Gotcha. Can I share with you what I'm kind of seeing a little bit? And I'm going to generalize this. What I'm seeing a little bit of is there are more sellers, so there are more properties coming onto the market a little bit. So it seems like, this tight inventory challenge might start to crack open a little bit, but certainly not fast enough against demand from buyers, right?
Right.
Yeah. What are you seeing as far as like the rental market? Because, if people can't buy, they eventually might decide to rent. What's your perspective on that right now?
The rental market is still, it's pretty hot too.
Is it?
Surprisingly, like both the both the residential, both sides of the residential is very hot. Like buying and renting is like a thing now, because people can't wait.
Right.
Because there's, if you miss out on a house, you probably need to wait another few months just for like another property to pop out. But
Sure.
renting wise, they can't wait. Like when their lease is up, they can't find a property. They're forced to rent for another year. So a lot of people are in that boat right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I know in previous conversations that I've had with you, when John and Jane Doe may have to rent or renew their lease, but let's go with the first one. When they may have to rent, I know in a previous conversation, you and I joked about this, and that is right now, the requirements from landlords. So when you are representing a landlord to place a tenant in the subject property, I know we joked about this. The landlord requirements are like also defying gravity, right?
Right.
They want to see, I've read somewhere, I've heard about, they want to see if a place that they're willing to rent is like 3 grand a month, for example, they want to see income to be at least 3 times that, right? Something like
Right.
that. Is that
Yes.
still the case right now, you think?
Yes.
Wow.
And then some are even asking for tax returns and at least 4 to 5 months of pay stub.
Wow. So when that happens, you being a broker who's providing the service of placing tenants in a rental, you're telling me you have to then communicate that, source that information, kick it back to the landlord for them to make a decision, right?
Correct. Because
Oh my
right
gosh.
now it's just tough to find good tenants. So we're trying our best to prevent a tenant from like
True.
losing their job like very last minute, at least making sure that they have enough to pay even if they lose their job, like stable
True.
income or like a side gig.
True. True. Yeah. A not so ideal tenant is also uh, trouble,
Right.
or if I may, using our native tongue, Chinese Cantonese, a bad tenant is 好麻煩, am I?
Yes. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, 好麻烦.
Yeah.
All right, let's now, let me now add another dimension to this topic about like current trends and market update. Where I see things very close to me, like I said, I do see some crack in the tight inventory, but guess what? What I see right now is as soon as, just like you touched upon, as soon as a good to great property is coming onto the market, Warren, this is crazy. I see it going under contract literally within the day.
Yes.
So that's kind of what you see right now too, right?
Correct.
Oh my gosh. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Most
Uh,
neighborhoods except for the
yeah,
downtown area.
yeah. In the neighborhoods where the demand is not as strong, that's the correct way of saying it, right?
Right.
Well, it's not as strong for someone wanting to buy. Someone wanting to invest and place tenants, that's a different conversation.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. So now that we've kind of level setted and talked about current trends and a local market update that we're both seeing and comparing notes on, thank you for doing that with me. Let me now move the next part of our live stream conversation today to, I think I dropped this into the bullet in my thumbnail for today's episode, and that is crazy stories. Warren, do you want to share any crazy stories from your experience working with sellers and or buyers? And by the way, as part of sharing the crazy story, we can keep the names to be anonymous, You know, we
Right.
don't want to call someone out, but
Right.
what crazy story can you share?
So I have one of these listings in a high rise,
Okay.
and then the seller was out of town,
Okay.
or overseas to be correct,
Okay.
for like a month or so, and then the refrigerator, the filter or the computer board for the refrigerator
Right.
was malfunctioning,
Uh-oh.
so it popped or made the filter exploded, and then water start leaking
Oh
the
no.
unit.
Oh
So,
no.
yeah, we had a call from property management, and then we had this whole ordeal of like getting the water
Right.
uh, gone, and then like trying to repair the hardwood floor and this and that. So it was pretty crazy. Like
Oh my
the
gosh.
the unit downstairs was like literally leaking, and it was like flooded
Oh
to the
no.
doorway.
Okay. And
So yeah,
was the unit downstairs, were they tenants or owners? Do
they
you
were
know?
owners, but the good thing was it was vacant at the time because they were doing construction.
Ah. Wow. That is a crazy story. Now, can you share what level of damage dollar wise your client had to deal with? I'm curious.
He didn't have to deal with it much because it was from the refrigerator. So he filed insurance claim, and then homeowner insurance, and then the so he didn't really have to pay anything out of his pocket.
Okay. Wow, wow. So that is the danger of how do I say this? That's the danger of having a high-end refrigerator with all of these electronic things that can go wacko.
Right. That was the case because like no one expected it.
Yeah.
It was just out of the blue that the computer board for the refrigerator malfunctioned, and then the filter just exploded, and then it was just water leaked.
Wow, wow. So the unit downstairs, have they finished their renovation? Fast forward to now, or what's their story?
Well, they're all done now. It's like a few years back.
Oh, a few years back. Okay, gotcha. All
Yeah,
right. Okay, yeah,
so not recent.
that is a crazy story, not a fun story.
Not
You
a fun
know,
story.
uh, water is one of the most, you know, because gravity happens, right? It
Right.
flows. Water is never a fun problem to have. What's another crazy story that you can share about your experience working with sellers and or buyers?
I mean, another crazy experience working with buyers is probably uh, when I first started looking into these like total gut rehab
Oh yeah,
properties. Like when you go to these like 100, 200-year old houses, and when you walk to the basement, and you see all the spider webs, and like it's almost like you're in a horror movie trying to like walk past safe without being freaked out by little insects and creatures that
right,
could be hiding in the basement.
right. Well, hey, uh, that is the challenge, my friend,
Right.
of what you do as a real estate broker when you have to go and tour either for a client or with a client and a very old property, especially one that has not been renovated and
Yes.
or one that has here's the polite term, right? Deferred maintenance.
Right.
um, oh, okay, all right. Well,
Yeah.
let me lean in and share with you a crazy story that I recently have um, been involved with, and that is you're gonna raise your eyebrows, and of course you're gonna ask me questions, right? There's
Hmm.
probably a limit to what I can share, but my crazy story, Warren, is a buyer recently who lost her earnest money in a transaction.
How did that happen?
How did that happen? How do I say this? And I'm going to be polite here. Due to due to a lack of focus and a complete 180-degree changing their mind after they went into contract, after they plowed through attorney inspection review, after they dropped money to pay for the appraisal. Get that. Get that. Right. So literally we were at almost at the 11th hour trying to tie up loose ends. And my buyer story was, I don't know. It doesn't happen that often to me, but when it does, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, I guess it happens. The buyer just changed their mind. And on top of that, Warren, how do I say this? They tried to set the perception that the buyer was denied financing.
Oh, wow.
However, here's the crazy part. When this came to a head, and of course the seller side said, well, so how come all of a sudden now the buyer is denied financing? I had to eventually lean in and not say anything and say the buyer was never denied financing. And if we did deny a buyer financing, Warren, you know this, in our business, we have a lot of compliance and ethics stuff.
Right.
All right. So just a reminder for you. When a buyer may be denied financing, we actually have to issue formally a denial letter.
Right.
We never did that. And so as an end result of all of this, the buyer lost a pretty good chunk of their earnest money. Well, actually all of it, which is 100% of the earnest money. But what I'm trying to say is it's a good chunk of dough.
Well, I mean, it wasted a lot of people's time, especially the seller's time.
Bingo. And that, my friend, is why I think in this one transaction, right, it's a small fraction among the many that I have worked through, and they all have their unique, interesting stories. But this one in particular, it was pretty obvious, right? It was like, okay, buyer just flat out remorse, changed their mind. And the seller basically looked at it as, well, you're not going to get your earnest money back.
Right.
So, hey, lessons learned. You also have heard this cliche before. In the business that we're in, it's not done till it's done.
Right. Of course. Right? Unless they're at the title company with the last I.
Right. That's right. So don't count your chickens before everything hatches open.
Right.
All right. Let's now wrap up today's episode with, I think, the next conversation point. I'm sure you are brought into the conversation sometimes, or maybe you lead the conversation this way sometimes. And that is, for a seller, right? Let's look at that side of the transaction. For a seller, do they rent out their current home, or do they sell it? Right. What's your opinion to that kind of bullet point? How do you respond to that?
Well, to me, I usually explain to my client, it depends on your situation.
Right answer.
Because everyone's different. I wouldn't recommend that you rent out your place all the time, or I wouldn't rent out you sell your place all the time. It comes down to, at the end of the day, are you going to be local, or are you going to be far away? So let's say if you're in California and your house property is still in Illinois or in Chicago, why the time difference? Are you willing to deal with the time difference, that having like a tenant call you like here it's probably 9, but over in California it's 7 in the morning, telling you that there's something wrong with the property and having you send someone over to fix? Are you able to do that? So if you don't want to deal with that, then I recommend to my sellers or the landlord to sell it. But
Yeah.
if you're okay with it, or like, then keep it. Or if
Yeah.
you live local, you could, and you don't mind going through the headache of getting someone to fix a place, go for it.
Yeah. Kind of like at the top of our live stream conversation today. Yeah, if that high-end refrigerator malfunctions,
Right.
can you quickly get there to resolve the issue, right?
Right.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. So I completely agree, Warren. I get asked that question a lot of the times. You know, do I rent? Do I rent out my current home or do I sell it? And just like you, my immediate answer is, well, it depends. It depends on your situation and what you really need. So let me add some commentary to that. One example would be, and for all of you audience members watching and listening to this episode, here is now where I'm getting very real. If you own a home where you own it free and clear, yeah, it probably could make sense that you might want to rent it, because then the rental income becomes a income stream for you, right?
Right.
Assuming just like Warren and I shared with you, audience members, that you find a good to great tenant, not the ones that is, back to our Chinese little joke, the tenant who is like 好麻烦, right? And by the way, for those of you who are watching this who don't speak Chinese, or you think you know what I just talked about, just read my facial expression. You'll know what I just meant. The other side of the coin is, why sell it? And my answer to this other segment of clients that ask me this question, should I rent it? Should I sell it? My answer really is this: do you feel like you need the funds from the equity in the property? And if you do, then yeah, you kind of have to, unless you got another way to come up with your downstroke, right? Your down payment. Unless you're an eligible veteran that can finance the entire enchilada. And we certainly have some clients who are in that position, right? So just like you, Warren, I completely agree. It depends. And my usual next comment is, let's talk about your situation, right?
Right.
So as we wrap up today's episode of Real Living in Bridgeport, audience members, for when you may be facing and thinking about that question, should I rent out my property or sell it? And you need to start a conversation with a local real estate broker to help you understand your unique situation and to get answers to your questions. All you have to do right now is scan the QR code next to Warren's picture, next to his headshot, and Warren is certainly ready, willing, and able to start that conversation with you. And along the way, if you need to have a conversation about how much equity that you might have to tap, or how much equity you might realize with selling a property, or if you decide to rent it, like, hey, how much do I need to rent it for so that my situation when I'm trying to finance my real estate purchase with Warren is on the right spot, if you will, then scan the QR code next to my name. We'll both be ready, willing, and able to start our conversations with you. So, Warren, as we wrap up, have a great Friday. Given where I'm at right now, the sun is popping out. Maybe it is for you.
Yeah, it's coming out too.
All right. And so enjoy Sunday Cinco de Mayo with your little kids. And when I see you next, of course, I will be asking you, hey, what tacos did you have? All right. That's it for now, everyone. See all of you in the next episode of Real Living in Bridgeport.
Have a nice weekend, everyone. Bye.